Hello there, Bulgari Tygar is one of the most popular fragrances with a lot of people, and especially the DNA of it is loved by many as an excellent day wear, fresh, very energizing kind of a fragrance, right? So I have already done one comparison where I did between the Indian houses, and I kind of said, Dopamine was one of my favorite Tiger Alts, and I've always recommended it until recently that I got Rue Broca's Theoreme, and many people said that you should compare this with Dopamine to find out if this is an good alternate to Tiger or still Dopamine rules, right? So I do have Dopamine here, I do have Rue Broca's Theoreme as well. So when I thought about comparing these two, I also thought about bringing in a couple of more elements just to make it a little more challenging to see. So I had already done Turathi Blue as well previously, so I have a small decant of it left, and recently I got Citrus Amber from the house of Fraganote, which I also said that this is also a very good alternate of Tiger, Bvlgari's Tygar. So I thought, okay, let me do a comparison of all of them and see which one kind of rules. So on this particular video, you're going to basically get a synopsis of how the scent profile is, what the projection is, and what the performance of each one of them is, and most importantly, which is the most value for money fragrance among all of that, right? So that's what you're going to get in this particular video. So you're watching the Perfume Experience. My name is Rodney. Let's get started. Alright, let's get going. So I have a decant of the Tiger from some time, and there's hardly some amount of volume left on this. I've used it so many times, and this is a fantastic fragrance. This is a fragrance that's predominantly got a few notes, but those few notes make this particular fragrance very, very engaging, right? So it's basically got grapefruit, it's got ambroxan, it's got some woody notes, and of course ginger, okay? So those are the four notes on this particular fragrance, but the way this particular fragrance is blended is phenomenal. It's a fragrance that you kind of get very good citrusy opening, and you get a nice ginger tone right at the background of it, along with a lot of woody elements playing, primarily a lot of ambroxan. So there's a nice throw in the air, there's a good projection, good performance, all of that. And this is a fragrance that kind of it works very well for office wear, for casual wear, for summers, anything, right? And it's a fragrance that gives you a lot of good performance and projection as well. So that is fantastic about this particular fragrance, right? Now, so having spoken about this scent profile, let's look at how these are, right? So I have done basically two sprays of each one of them, basically Dopamine on my right, and I also had Citrus Amber and the OG and Rue Broca and all of that, right? Now let me tell you about the scent profile, right? Now in terms of scent profile, if I were to say, now I feel Citrus Amber, although it carries the DNA of the Bvlgari Tygar very well, I feel this is a little more on the fresher side of the fragrance, okay? So there is a slight difference in terms of how this feels, a little more fresher, a little more citrusy, lightness is there, so it feels a little like that, but the DNA of the fragrance is captured very well, so you get a good close resemblance of the OG in terms of how it is, right? Now when we talk about Turathi Blue, is also the similar case. There is also a good freshness that you get, or you feel a little lighter version of this, however. Now when you come to the main two parts of Dopamine and when you talk about Rue Broca, so Theoreme, I would say that it's really, really nice as well. So the DNA is very good, the opening is fantastic. Some people say that it is lighter compared to Turathi Blue. I would kind of disagree there, but because I feel that this is really, really well done, and Dopamine is really, really fantastic in the opening. No differences in terms of opening, right? Now at a scent level, I think all of them are really, really good. Maybe slightly, I would say that slightly, very marginally, I would say Citrus Amber is a little on the softer side because it's more fresher. This is more potent and is right out there, and this also is very strong in its opening, very in your face kind of thing, and this is slightly lower compared to Rue Broca. Okay, so that's my first thoughts about how the scent profile is, right? Now, if after the first initial spray, and when you think about it in terms of how close they are all to the OG in terms of the scent profile at the opening, I would say Dopamine and Rue Broca are very, very close to each other. Okay, so third would probably be Citrus Amber, and then Turathi Blue, I would say, is right there. Okay, so just about that, right? After the few minutes, right, when the fragrance really starts to open up, and it's a loud fragrance, so in terms of projection, I am saying that all of them do really well. All of them project really loud. You will easily get about 2 feet to 3 feet projection. 3 feet and above is what I would say. But the thing about this particular fragrance, it's not about the projection. What really matters is how long does it project. Okay, that's the best part about this particular fragrance, and that's where I start seeing differences in this particular fragrance, right? Now, if you look at that, this will project to you about, say, 1.5 hours time roughly, very loudly, and after that it starts to go softer. Although on your skin you will find it for about 6 hours easy, okay, or even more, on your apparel, right? Now, when you think about Turathi Blue, it's also a similar case. It projects pretty loud, probably a little longer than Citrus Amber, so you can probably say about 2 hours plus, and then it starts going softer. These two, on the other hand, they are beasts when it comes to performance. They project, they are loud, fantastically loud. Turathi Theoreme kind of does at least about 3 hours to 3.5 hours. 3 hours at least, I would say, where it is very loud, very strong, very projecting. This one pushes that by another half an hour to 45 minutes. This goes to close to about 4 hours, and it's still pretty loud, right? So Dopamine kind of edges out Theoreme when it comes to projection and lasting in terms of the strong projection, okay? Now, if you talk about the longevity of the fragrance, how long does it last? So if you think about that, I would say Citrus Amber does about 5 to 6 hours time. Same with, I would say, Turathi Blue. These two really go up even more closer, but the only difference is after the 3.5 4 hour mark, Theoreme kind of becomes a little more lighter, whereas Dopamine tends to continue further ahead, right? So you will easily get about 7 hours or so, or even a little more on Dopamine, depending on how many sprays you go. But on this, I would say you will get close to about good performance, about 4.5 5 hours, but then lasting will still continue to be there for about 6 hours roughly. Okay, that is what you will kind of get on Theoreme, right? Now, the other element, when you consider all of that, so scent profile, you know that almost all of them are very close. These two really stand out. Performance and projection, again, these two stand out. In terms of lasting is where Dopamine takes a little bit of a lead compared to Theoreme, okay? Now, the next part, which is value for money. What do you get at how much? I think you get Turathi Blue for roughly about, I think 2,000 rupees or so for about 100 ml. Citrus Amber, I think, is about 1,200 rupees for 50 ml. So if you consider 100 ml is about 2,400 rupees, okay? Dopamine is, I think, 1,700 rupees or so for 50 ml, and I think that way if you calculate 100 ml is close to about 2,800 to 3,000 rupees. Okay. Now Rue Broca, on the other hand, Theoreme, you will get 100 ml, I think close to about 1,800 to 2,000 rupees. I think Exclusive Scents sells it for about 1,800 rupees roughly. So that is what you will get for 100 ml. Okay. I think this is a 100 ml bottle if I'm not wrong. Sorry, this is a 90 ml. Okay. So you get a 90 ml for about 1,800 rupees. So if you make your calculation and figure out what is it that you would want to get as a good alternative, so the factor that you can think is, in terms of lasting, you can definitely consider Dopamine. In terms of projection, you can definitely consider Dopamine and Theoreme, which are equally good. When you consider value for money, I think definitely Rue Broca comes into picture, because this is, I think, by far the most value for money alternate of Bvlgari Tygar. Now when you look at all of these, this is the way you can kind of picture what is that you would like to go for. If you want to go in for an Indian house that makes at about 1,200 rupees, you get a 50 ml, you can straight away go for this. This is a no-brainer. You want a very good juice which lasts a little longer, which has got a very good projection, and last performance is also really good, then you can definitely consider Dopamine. If you want a very good value for money fragrance and a good presentation at that, just look at this particular bottle, and this one screams projection as well, so very good. But the only thing is, like, after about 3.5 mark it starts to go down, whereas this kind of pushes it a little more. Excellent value for money is Rue Broca Theoreme. And Afnan Turathi Blue, I would say, is okay. It's a great presentation, good bottle, all of that, but again, not my best pick, right? So that is what I thought about the Tiger blends that we have, and I think in the next week I will be able to get hopefully from Almam as well. So in case you want to do a comparison between Dopamine and that, we can definitely consider that as well to see which is how, right? Now if you ask me to pick one among all of these and tell which is your favorite, or which is the one that you would go for, then I think it's a no-brainer that you can definitely pick up Dopamine, and that would be my choice of fragrance, because I kind of get longer performance on this, and the projection is much more louder. So that way I feel this is a very, very good alternate of Bvlgari's Tiger. But if you look at it from a value point of view, you can definitely consider this. But between the two, my pick could be Dopamine from Scentedelic, right? So if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe and share. You're watching The Perfume Experience. My name is Rodney, and do let me know what you want to watch next. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.